Okay, so welcome back to the 30-day scripting challenge after who knows how long since day 23. I mean, there's only 6 days left of this challenge now, and I'm like already way beyond 30 days, but I guess it's not a month now, it's like 5 months or something like that. But lots of things happened, lots of things have been going on with my personal life, especially with school, but it's going on with everyone, right? Everyone, high school or college, whatever you're going on, we all have got things that we need to worry about, especially with the finals week. Now, finals week was a while ago. I think finals week was 4 or like 5 weeks ago now, but that was one of the biggest delays with my uploading. And then during winter break, I had so much time to upload, but I simply just didn't. I didn't really get the motivation to, but I'm back at it now. No more excuses. I mean, this is gonna really look bad for my portfolio on time management, but I'm hoping to get this back on schedule. And then one thing, if you guys notice, is that I'm switching my recording to use 2560 instead of 3440, which was, I'm moving my recording from my ultra-wide monitor to my 27-inch monitor, so viewing will be a lot more pleasant. Anyways, day 24, it's simply a replacement to Roblox's hotbar system, their backpack system, using our own custom code. So all I've simply done, the setup I've made, is I've added a frame, wherever it is, inventory frame right here, and I have the hotbar, I have our scrolling frame, which is inventory, and I have a template for our item, which contains a UI drag detector, which is how we're going to move the UI, around. So let's start with the code here. Overall, it's gonna be very simple. UI drag detectors save a lot of the work for us, and also arrays, which I'll talk about later on here. But I'm gonna make a local script inside our player, and I'm gonna call this like inventory, right? And in here, we're going to reference the player because we need to grab their backpack. Now, on top of this, we need the player's UI, so we can say player.player.ui, which is the player's UI, which will be a copy of everything inside starter UI, which is essentially what we want here. And one final thing we need to do is disable the backpack, which we can do by running set cord UI enabled the backpack and false. This way we can add in our own UI to handle the player's inventory. Now, moving on, let's handle the actual adding part and removing part of items. Now, the thing is, when an item has been changed in a backpack, there's two things that can happen. The item is either being added into the backpack or the item is being removed. So we want to connect a function to when a backpack is when an item is added or removed, and specifically if that item is a tool. So we can reference backpack dot child added connect, and we can also say backpack dot child remove, and we're gonna make a function that will handle when a child has been changed within when the child has been changed within the backpack. So we'll make a function and we'll call it tool changed, and we'll pass this function in on our child added. So we can say tool changed right here and remove the parentheses, so it calls the function itself, and we'll say tool changed here, just like that. So when an item has been but what we want to do is we want to now get our actual control value for if the item is being removed or added. So we can say local added is going to equal to the backpack find first child tool.name. Now, what happens when child remove is called is it removes the item from the backpack, and it sends in the item that was removed. So by the time this function is called, the item's already removed. So if it doesn't find that tool in the backpack, then it means that that tool has been removed from the backpack and added is equal to false. So this is going to be our little control here, and then we're going to run some logic. So if added, then, and then else. Now, one thing I actually do want to talk about here, it's a little bit unrelated to the hotbar system, and it's nesting. So I was watching this video, computer science video, about nesting conditionals. And essentially what the video was talking about was that you should have no more than 3 nested conditionals, because then code becomes a lot harder to interpret and understand. And one of the methods that was recommended was to have the unhappy be first and the happy at the end. So what they would say is, if not added, then, and then you'd have all of your unhappies and only your happy at the end. So if that made sense, it made sense. If it didn't, then it didn't. But yeah, I'm not gonna explain it. But anyways, if our item died, I'm gonna do it this way because there's not really a lot of nesting I need to do, but there actually is. I don't know. We want to check. Sorry, that's for removing. So when our item is added, we want to first figure out where the item can go. So we're actually gonna make 2 different arrays here. One of them will be called hotbar, and the other one will be called inventory. And also I'll get some UI references here for later. But what we want to first do is check if there is room in our hotbar. Now, I would recommend creating I forgot what they're called, a limited table so you don't use up a lot of data that only has 9 slots in it, to just store the data that we have of our item. But it's a bit unrelated. Wow, I really cannot English. So the way a hotbar, the way an array works, and this is a feature that I'm going to take advantage of here. So let's say we have this array, right? It has items 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We have this array, and we take out item 3 from the array. In this case, it'll represent the 3rd item in our hotbar being removed. What the array automatically does, if we remove it using table.remove instead of table nil, it's going to remove this completely, and then every instance or every index above it drops down a value or up a value, whatever. So item number 4 goes to slot number 3. So another way to explain this is, if I had a table where at position 1 we had sword, position 2 was potion, position 3 was spear, and position 4 was axe, and we consumed the potion from our inventory, then we would be left with sword, spear, and then axe. So if I wanted to reference the potion, I would simply just do hotbar 2, and that would give me potion. But after we use the potion, hotbar 2 would result in the spear, because everything moves down that's above the position that we removed it from, and that will allow us to dynamically update our hotbar in an inventory. Well, inventory, it won't really matter. It's only important for the hotbar. So anyways, we're gonna want to check if the number of hotbar is greater than or equal to 9. If it is, we're going to add it to the inventory. Now you can also like add a variable to check if player.max inventory blah 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 for if the player can actually hold a maximum amount of items in inventory. If you don't have that, then you don't really need to. We can just say table.insert inventory and then the tool. And if the hotbar slot, if the number of the slots in the hotbar is less than 9, then we can say table.insert hotbar tool. Now, only through using table.insert will the item actually go to like the very last slot, rather than it going somewhere where it shouldn't be, where then when we use the dynamic removing, it won't all shift down by 1. So now for removed, if the item is removed, then we want to search both the hotbar and the inventory to find the if the item is in where it is, right? So we can say local hotbar is equal to table.find hotbar tool, and we'll say local in inventory is equal to table.find inventory tool, and we can simply say table.remove, or actually, we can say table.remove in hotbar and hotbar, or in inventory and in inventory and inventory, and then the position is in hotbar or in inventory. So essentially what this is going to do is if it's in the hotbar, we're going to remove it from the hotbar. If it's not in this, in the inventory, then we're going to remove it from the inventory. And also add a check to make sure that the thing is actually a tool or not. And then in the second here, if in hotbar returns nil, then it's going to go in the inventory. Both returns nil, then that means that there's an error with the actual item itself. Now, if all of your items tend to typically have the same name, then you wouldn't want to use this, or else it would find duplicates. But if you actually give your items like a unique like tag or identifier at the end of its name, like Apple 1, Apple 2, Apple 3, or whatever, then this would be fine. But that's how I will simply just name it here. So by removing it from the inventory, all of the slots shift down one, and that's that. Now, another important thing we need to understand is the overfill concept. If we have 9 items in our hotbar and we have items in our inventory, if we remove an item from our hotbar and there's now 8 slots in our hotbar, we want to remove the first item from the inventory and add it to the hotbar. So now we're simply going to check if the number of hotbar is equal to 8. Then we're going to, is there a table.move? I guess I don't have that function. There's a function that you can use for tables that I know in like a different utility that lets you move an item from one table to another. It's called table.move, but this table.move is different, or table.transfer different. Okay, anyways, we're just gonna do it a different way. So if the number of hotbar items equals 8 after we've done our table.remove, then we're going to actually the number of hotbars is equal to 8 and the number of inventory is greater than 0, meaning there is items in the inventory, then we're going to remove the first item from the inventory. That's by accessing inventory 1 and adding it to the hotbar. So we can say table.insert hotbar inventory 1, and that's it. It'll simply move the first item from our inventory over to our hotbar, only if this case has matched. Now, you might be wondering, what if 2 items are removed at the same time? To put it simply, child added only connects for one child that's removed. If 2 children are removed, it's going to remove child 1 first, call the rest of the functions, then remove child 2, call the rest of the functions. Then, like, the code will run. So if 2 items are removed, it's going to move in serial, meaning one after another. So it's not all going to happen at the same time unless you choose to make it happen at the same time instead of having the items be removed one by one, which I know, development preference. But anyways, this is simply handling the logic of our hotbar. Now we need to make a function to update the UI. So we can simply use a local function update UI. Now here we simply want to clear out all the children and repopulate it. So everything in our inventory and hotbar we're going to want to clear out. So let's go grab our UI references finally. So we can say local inventory frame is going to equal to clear GUI dot main GUI dot inventory frame. And now we can grab the hotbar. So we can say local hotbar is equal to inventory frame hotbar, and then a local inventory will equal to the inventory frame dot inventory. I'll also grab the template as well. Now, over here in our update UI, we're going to say for underscore child in hotbar get children do say if child is a frame, then child destroy, because all this will be populated with this frame here. That's it. No other UI will populate this other than this frame or whatever, like, what's the word? Whatever thing you have to represent items will be. So if that's a text button, image button, or whatever. In this case, I'm using a frame because I'm not really a good UI designer. So if it's a frame, we're going to destroy it. Now we'll do the same thing for the inventory. So for score child in the inventory, we'll get children do. If the child is a frame, then child destroy. So this will delete everything in our hotbar inventory. And then we're going to populate it. So we'll do the hotbar first. So for underscore or for index item in the hotbar, or actually we're going to use iPairs here. Wait, the actual hotbar array, and just to add that there. So we're gonna the index and the item is the actual item. Now when there, why is my English going terrible? So when we're looping through any sort of data structure like a dictionary or an array, there's two different types of loops. There's for key value in dictionary, and then there's for index value, right? But when you're looping through a dictionary, the index will be whatever index you have, whether that be like one value, another value, whatever. But when you're looping through an array, index will always be an integer. An item will be whatever value you store in. Anyways, we're gonna use iPairs so we can get it we can get it ordered. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that way our hotbar is actually ordered. iPairs is iterator pairs. So let's get our template. So we'll say local clone equal to template clone, and we'll say clone dot name will equal to the item dot name. In this case, each item in the hotbar is a tool, I'm pretty sure, because we're adding the tool in the hotbar, right? So the name will be the item dot name, and we can also give it a unique identifier, or actually I'm just going to add this not in hotbar here to make sure that it'll only check the in inventory thing if it's not in the hotbar. So if it's in the hotbar, then it'll skip this if it's in the hotbar. Oh, actually, never mind. I'm overthinking it. We're using the tool's like object as a reference here, not the tool's name. I was overthinking it there. So every time we enter the tool, we're inserting the tool's actual object itself, not the name. Only going to use the tool's name for the UI thing, which was automatically going to get cleared out anyway. So I overthought it there for a bit. That's my bad. And as a matter of fact, I also need to put in an object value, which will be our connected tool. So we're also going to say clone dot connected tool dot value will equal to the tool. Oh, well, it'll be the item. And then let's see if there's a visible. We'll say clone dot visible will equal to true. So clone dot parent will equal to the hotbar frame. And after this, we would connect our drag detection logic. So connect drag detection logic. Oh, and then also the hotkey value will be assigned to the index. So we'll say clone.hotkey.text will equal to toString index. There we go. So that way, everything else will be good. So we want to connect the drag detection logic and also connect the activation, the tool when we like equip and unequip an item, especially with hotkeys too. So that's for our hotbar. Now we can do the inventory. So I can essentially copy this loop here, and we're just gonna change up a couple of things. So in the inventory, and we don't really need to use iPairs here because the inventory can be unordered, but whatever. So we're gonna set the and then the hotkey.text will be set to it'll just be left blank because when they're in the inventory, they don't have a hotkey. So I'll just be blank for now. And also, let's add a value to represent the assigned key. So I'll put in an int value that will be our hotkey. And oh wait, why the frick? Alright, so we'll say clone.assigned hotkey.value will equal to the index. So now when I'm just going to reference the assigned hotkey value, though you could also reference two number, you could use the two number You could reference this as well, which will grant you the same value. But just to keep things a bit more nice and tidy here. Okay, so now that we have this all good to go, at the end of tool changed, we can call the update UI function, which needs to go up here. I forgot I'm not using a module script for this one. I don't know why. I should use a module script here. And we'll call update UI, because at the end of this script here, all the changes made to the table will be done. Also, we need to have it from the third game, so we'll call the update UI function at the start. Or no, we actually need to like create logic for our time. So for tool in player.backpack children we'll simply call tool changed tool to mimic the child added here, and then it's going to pass in the tool, and then it's going to say it's already added and insert it to the table, and all logic should run carefully. So let's go on ahead and run it here, look for any errors, and then it says set core UI enabled is not a valid number. Interesting, because I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, so let's wait like 0.05 seconds. Yeah, no, that is... Also, for some reason, the clothes on the sonar fit got taken down for some reason. So I only have the 3D shirt here and the head, which kind of sucks. So I don't know why it's saying I can't use this for UI, so I'm just gonna get games UI and just set the actual games UI thing enabled, and we'll see if that works. Oh, I think maybe it's because everything isn't loading yet. Just gonna delete this and say game.started UI to this line, and I'll put some wait for childs here. Games UI wait for child inventory frame, and then see if that'll... Okay, so the UI looks like it loaded, GUI is disabled, and we have another error. So a valid argument to remove table expected and got nil. Oh, I gotta try to remove the first item of the inventory. I didn't do that, so there we go, that's good. And then I'm just gonna put it into an if else condition. That's probably not working. So if in hotbar then table dot remove hotbar in hotbar, else if in inventory then table dot remove inventory in inventory. Okay, so this is just gonna be easier. Okay, invalid argument to I pairs. Oh, I didn't even run get children. Or wait, no, what am I using? Yeah, I need to use the lowercase I. My naming convention here is really bad, by the way. Okay, so no errors, but also no items in our backpack. So let's look at our backpack first. Yeah, we have 2 items here. And let's get our player GUI and go to our main GUI and look at the inventory frame. In our hotbar, it says nothing. So it is not cloning everything. First, I need to make sure update UI is being called. Okay, so it calls it twice for both items. So that means tool changed is running. And then we put a print statement in to make sure that it's checking if it's being added. Okay, so there's an issue with how we're checking, because it's printing updating UI, which means this is running, but it's not verifying if it's added. So backpack find first child, the tool dot name, or what if I just did backpack tool? So yeah, that'd work. So string expected got instance. Okay, so let me put a like 2-second wait here. Okay, and it still doesn't work. So I guess here I could stop having it be dependent with the string. So I could put that has to be equal to the tool. So it'll look for the name, but make sure that object is equal to the tool. Or actually I could just simply say the tool.parent is equal to the backpack. Okay, so let's see if that fixes it. No, okay, so let's see what added is actually printing here, because it's printing false, even though there are tools in our backpack. So let's print the added item and then also the tool. So false katana, false gun, even though in our backpack we have the katana. So what for sure? So local is equal to false. For underscore item in player.backpack, get children to if item is equal to tool, then added is equal to true break. And then let's see if this prints true. Okay, there we go. And here we have our 2 items. So that's just the fix there. And then I didn't even update the trigger text. So let's go do that here. Clone.trigger.text will equal to the tool. Will equal to the item.name. Do the same thing here. Clone.trigger.text will equal to the item.name. So it should have katana, which we can drag, and the gun, which we can drag. Now, as you can see, when I drag it, it's just gonna stay where it is. It's not gonna return back to the actual spot where it was before, but we will program that. So now that we have our actual inventory sorting part done, let's first handle the equipping tool logic here. So for actually equipping a tool, we need to handle the activation. So simply here we can check when the hotbar item has been clicked. So we'll make a function here to handle click logic. So right here for the tool activation logic, I'm going to call connect activation handler, and I'm going to pass in the clone. As well as that, I'll pass it in here as well. So connect activation handler and pass the clone in as well. So in this activation handler, we're going to check when the button has been clicked. So button dot mouse button, or let's make you a text button, I guess. And we can't use activated here because our frame is not active, as we want our trigger to be draggable, the UI to actually be draggable. So when the UI is clicked, we want to now equip the item. So we'll actually probably get the button passed in, and then also the tool. So in our clone logic, I'll pass the item in as well here. We want the item too. So we'll make a variable called equipping, and we'll set that to be if they find that specific tool inside of the player's backpack. And we can do that by simply saying, so if the tool is inside the backpack, that means the tool is being equipped, meaning moving from the backpack to the player's character. So we're gonna grab the character here, and I wouldn't really put this here. I'd say player colon wait for character, but I don't know. I just don't feel like doing that right now, though I probably should. So if we're equipping, then we're going to move that tool to the player's character. If we are unequipping, or actually, we should probably use the humanoid method. We're just gonna say humanoid colon equip tool, not tool. If we're not, we're simply going to say tool.parent will equal to backpack. And that will essentially act as the unequipper, or we can just say humanoid colon unequip tools. So both methods work. So let's go on ahead and try that out here. It's not a valid member. Oh, what am I doing? We want to send in the clone.trigger, sorry, not the frame itself. So I should be able to click that. Oh, I think there's a setting I need to enable in the UI drag detector. Okay, so one thing that I need to allow is I need to have the UI drag detector be disabled and only enabled when we want it to be enabled. So we'll set the default to be disabled, and also I need to connect a listener to actually open the UI. So down here I can just say, let me grab user input service. I'm going to say user input service dot input begin, connect function, put gp if we then return. So if the input dot key code is equal to enum.keycode dot tab, then we're going to open up the inventory. So we'll say inventory dot visible equal to not inventory dot visible, and then we need to set a value to like allow scrolling. So I'll make a boolean here and I'll call it not scrolling, it'll be false, and we're gonna set that variable, so dragging allowed equal to the inventory.visible. So pretty much UI can only drag if dragging allowed is equal to true. So when we connect our drag detection logic then it'll work nicely, because the UI drag detector basically overrides the controls of the UI. Okay, so I'm clicking on the buttons, but they're not activating. Yeah, so they are running mouse button one click, they are activating, but they're not equipping. Okay, so I just have to reuse this logic here. There we go. Alright, now the katana equips and unequips when we click on it. And also, for those wondering, the gun script is disabled because I didn't really put any proper coding methods with the gun, so it is kind of buggy and bad. So that's why I had to disable it, because I see. But the katana still works pretty nicely. I forgot that I added a movement system with dashing. Okay, I got a bit distracted there. But anyways, now I need to connect our keybinds. So I can make a function here to basically run the equip tools. And here, I'm gonna move all this here, and all it needs is the tool. So here I'm gonna call the change tool status tool, and I'm kind of gonna be wrapping things around. I want to make things pretty modular as best as I can, but it's pretty hard to do that. So I'm gonna save adding this listener here in both of these scenarios by just having it call one function that'll then connect the listener that'll call this, and this will be called down here in user input service. So I'll say the input.keycode. So if the key code is 1, then we're going to run a function to check if that slot exists and then fire the listener. So I'll make a function here. I'll say a local function. Or actually, I only want this function to be find once. So local function check slot activation. So we're gonna simply run this check slot activation. Okay, I'm gonna do a range check, which is the input.keycode is less than enum.keycode.1.value, and the they're equal to the enum.keycode.9 value. Then we'll get the number. Will be the input.keycode value minus the enum.keycode value plus 1, and then we're going to run the check slot activation. So once this happens, we're going to get the tool associated with it. So we'll say local hotbar slot is equal to the hotbar key, or we'll find, and then we'll check if hotbar slot, then, whoa, what do I do? Or, well, actually, no, I don't want this. I just want to do hotbar key, and then if hotbar slot, then we're going to we need to get the actual text button connected to that. So we'll loop through all of the items. So for underscore slot in the hotbar phone get children do if slot dot slot dot connected tool dot value is equal to the hotbar slot, then we're going to call the connect activation handler. The slot is a frame, then we'll do this. So it's going to check if if it's a frame and it's connected to value is equal to the hotbar slot, which is the item that we look in our hotbar for, because we're assigning the actual tool in there. Then we're going to run the connect activation handler with the slot dot trigger, and then the tool item itself will be the hotbar slot. And this should hopefully work. So I click 1, okay, it's not working. So let's print number, see if that's gonna work. Okay, so look, it's printing out whatever number I press. Oh wait, it's not the connect activation handler. It's the change tool status, which simply just takes the tool's instance. So now I can do this, and we're still not equipping the tool. So what's going on here? Let's print the hotbar slot, make sure that's working. Okay, so it's giving the actual item. It's good. And then it's checking if the loop in the bar showing if the slots frame. Am I assigning the connected tool value? I am. Then change tool status. So I need to make sure that clicking it actually equips it. And then also I need to make sure we unequip all tools at the start. Okay, so that removed the thing completely. Need to make sure that everything is working here. So right there. Okay, so that is working fine. This part of the code is okay. It should just, this change tool status, when I call it here, should fire. So we are setting the value in both of them. And right, it is printing out the item. So if I equip the item and then I do it, then it unequips it. So I'm gonna comment this out and I'm gonna put a print statement here. Just make sure. Okay, so it is successfully finding the item. So what if instead of doing this, let's actually just copy the equip logic and run that here. So this I'm going to put back here. That I can get rid of, and this will stay the same. And in here, we're just gonna run the same logic. So I'm gonna do this, attach the end. All right, and now this should work as a hotkey. Perfect. I can now click, do this, do that, do all of that, and it works nicely. Oh, that's right. Tab is assigned for the. It's a core. It's a game process key. Sorry. Let's just do E, I guess, because I don't have E bind to anything. And that'll open up our UI here. Okay, let's now handle the dragging portion and we'll be good to go with the inventory. So when we're dragging UI, we'll make a function to connect the drag UI here. So we'll say local function connect drag handler. And essentially what we want to do is just get the actual reference of the item. So we want the same. Well, actually, hold on. We can just do that here. So we can say local drag detector will equal to the button one shot of class UI drag detector, and that'll automatically be inside of it. And then we can get the drag started, or actually enable the UI based on when it is. So if the dragging allowed is equal to true, or if dragging allowed, then drag detector dot enabled will equal to true. I'm just gonna make a function called enable dragging. Or no, actually I can't do that. It's not gonna work. Or honestly, I mean I could, because we're only like enabling dragging here, right? So I can say for underscore slot in. Oh well, I'd have to loop through the hotbar and the inventory and enable the dragging there in the slot dot trigger, and then we'll do the same for the inventory. And this I'll just delete here. Now hopefully that will determine whether dragging is allowed or not. So let me test this out here. So let's go here and let's look at my player GUI and look at the main, look at the inventory and hotbar. So enabled false, true, false, true, false, true, false, true. Okay, so that is good to go there. We can now simply just run our, so with the drag detector, there's three functions. There's drag detector dot drag start connect function, drag detector dot drag end connect function, and then drag detector dot drag continue connect function, which is as we're dragging. So I'll just put these right here, and then that should be good to go there with our drag detector logic. Okay, so these three functions, they're like the standard functions that we use with drag detectors, but we're gonna start with the drag start first. So I'm first gonna grab some, we need to grab the starting position, the slot we're dragging, and then the tool attached to it, and if we're dragging it from the hotbar, because it's important that if we're dragging it from the hotbar, we want to update it with the inventory slots because they're formatted a bit differently. So we'll say local drag start position, the nil, we'll update that later. Local dragged slot will equal to nil, and then we'll say local dragged tool, so it's attached with it, that'll be equal to nil as well. I'll say local is dragging from hotbar equal to nil, because this is going to determine if we're dragging from hotbar or not. Now, drag start is the simplest. We're simply just going to store the position to be the, not clone, the button dot position, because we're sending in the clone dot trigger here. So that'll update normally. Then we're gonna get the dragged slot to be the button dot parent, which is the template here. I'm gonna say local, not local, sorry. Dragged tool will equal to the tool here simply, and then is dragging from hotbar will equal to if the button dot, well, if the drag slot dot parent is equal to the hotbar frame, because the drag slot here is the button dot parent, which is the frame. We need to make sure that the parent of our frame is equal to the hotbar here. Now, drag continue is for visual feedback. Like if you want to make the UI tilt or something, you can put that here. So we're not really gonna use this because I don't really have any like thing. You can make it like the UI, like the trail behind it or whatever, but I don't have anything, so I'm not really gonna use this function here. Now the drag end part, this is the most annoying part, and then we're basically done. So first things first is we need to check if we don't have a drag slot, then we're going to return. We can't do anything. And now we're going to use a method to like determine if the UI can be moved to a certain position or not by using something called the get GUI objects at position. But to use that, we first need to get our actual UI elements at the current trigger, the current like button's position. So we'll say local trigger absolute position is going to equal to the dragged slot dot trigger dot absolute position, which is also the same thing as getting the button. And here we're going to say the trigger absolute size is going to equal to the dragged slot dot trigger dot absolute size. Now we can also get the center position, which is the trigger absolute position plus the trigger absolute size divided by 2, which is the center, which is what we're going to need when we run the local GUI objects. We go to the player GUI get GUI objects at position center post dot x and the center post dot y, and this is a method that you can use to get, it'll return you a table filled with every single UI that's at the position that you input, which is our center position here. Now we can get the target slot variable, which is going to be if we drag a UI to the hotbar and the hotbar is full, we're going to want to just swap the item. So like it's just going to swap basically. That's what our target slot variable here is. And then also the check if the target is in the hotbar or not, because if it is, then we need to update the actual array itself, because once again the format's different. So first we're going to check to find if we're actually hovering over a valid slot or not. So for underscore object in the GUI objects, check if the object is a frame and the object is not equal to the drag slot and the parent is equal to our hotbar. If it is, we're going to set the target slot to equal the object and the check if the target is hotbar equal to true. Now we can break it here. Else if the object is a frame and the object is not equal to the drag slot and object.parent is equal to the inventory, then we'll say target slot is going to equal to the object and target is hotbar, we would have false because it's not in the hotbar. Now remember, this is actually finding the slot itself, not if we're in a valid UI container. Just the slot. Okay, so now else if the object is equal to the hotbar, then we'll say target is hotbar with what is true, and else if else if down here, else if the object is equal to the inventory, then target is hotbar will equal to false, and that's getting our actual slot. So now we can determine if we don't have a place to do it, so we'll make a variable called drag success, and pretty much we're going to rubber band the UI back to its original position if it doesn't have a valid slot. And rubber banding is simply like when you move something to a certain position, but then it can't be in that position, so it returns to its original position. Kind of like how if you stretch out a rubber band and you hold one end and let go of the other end, it's going to fly back to the position where you're holding. That's what rubber banding is, basically. So we're going to make sure to check if it's the same frame when we cancel the drag. So if is dragging from hotbar and the target is hotbar and not target slot, or I'm just gonna go for a new line here, not is dragging from hotbar and not target is hotbar and not the target slot. Oh, I don't want to do that. Then here we can reset our position. Okay, the dragged slot dot trigger dot position will equal to the drag start position, because we're only moving the text button itself, not the parent frame. And you know what? I have extra room. I'm gonna put on one line. Then we'll say drag success is equal to false. Now let's else if. Whoa, so else if there's a target slot, then we're now going to swap it because we're dragging to the opposite frame with a specific slot. So the first thing we're gonna do is get the index of the slot and then the tool and the target's index. So say local dragged index, because that's what we're using now. It's gonna be table.find. We to verify that we are dragging from the hotbar and the hotbar's table, or simply the inventory if we're not dragging from the hotbar. The actual like inventory table though. So now let's grab the target tool. So that'll be the target slot dot connected tool dot value. That's why we added that there. And then we'll grab the index of that, which will be the same thing here. Is dragging from hotbar and hotbar or inventory and then target tool. So now we have our actual indexes and stuff. Good. We can now check if the dragged index and the target index and the target tool, then we're going to swap the arrays. So if we're dragging from the hotbar and the target is in the hotbar, then we're going to say hotbar dragged index hotbar target index will equal to the hotbar target index hotbar dragged index. Now else if it is not the is dragging from hotbar and not the target is hotbar, then it's the inventory we're doing. We'll just say that both are in the inventory. So inventory drag index and then inventory target index will equal to inventory. Man, I gotta stop auto correcting that. Inventory target index comma inventory oh my goodness, inventory dragged index. And lastly, else we're just going to cross swap between the hotbar and the inventory. So if is dragging from hotbar, then we're going to say table.remove hotbar dragged index, and then table.remove from the inventory the target index. We're going to insert into the inventory target index dragged tool, and then we'll say table.insert the hotbar the dragged index target tool, and then else we'll say table.remove the inventory dragged index table.remove the hotbar the target index, and then table.insert the hotbar target index the dragged tool, and then same thing, table.insert in the inventory, not that inventory, this inventory, the dragged index, the target tool here. And after that, we'll say drag success will equal to true, or not equal to, will equal true. And we can connect another else if for if we're dragging from the hotbar to the inventory. So else if is dragging from hotbar and target is hotbar is equal to false, then we'll say local dragged index will equal to table.find hotbar drag tool. Say if the dragged index exists, then we'll remove from the hotbar the dragged index and then insert into the inventory the dragged tool. So we're essentially just going to remove it from the hotbars array and add it to the inventory, because the inventory, unless it has a cap, can be added items without needing to change its structure. Now we're going to refill the hotbar from the inventory if we can, which is the same logic we did in our update UI. So check if the number of the hotbar's contents is less than 9 and the number inventory is greater than 1, which is the same thing that we're doing in our update UI function, by the way. We'll say table dot insert hotbar inventory 1, and then we'll say table dot remove inventory 1. And then we'll set drag success to equal to true. Now, one final condition is if we're dragging from the inventory to the hotbar with no specific slot. So else if not is dragging from the hotbar and the target is a hotbar, then we're check if the number of the hotbar is less than 9, then we're going to set the drag index. Oh, dragged index will be the table.find inventory and then the drag tool here. If dragged index exists, then we're going to run table.remove the inventory and the dragged index, and we're going to insert into our hotbar the dragged tool, and drag success will equal true. Else, if the hotbar is full, we're going to reset. So drag slot dot trigger dot position will equal to the drag start position, and drag success will equal to false. And if it's not over a valid area, we're just going to reset it. So say dragged slot dot trigger dot position will equal to the drag start position. So drag success will equal to false if it's not over any valid area. And then we'll reset the drag state. So drag start position will equal to nil, dragged slot will equal to nil, dragged tool will equal to nil, and is dragging from hotbar will equal to nil or whatever. And we can also update the UI. So if drag was successful, then we'll update the UI. Okay, I actually gotta move the update UI function. Oh, actually, well, because this is in the update UI, actually, I need to use a little function here. Just say UI, and then I can say like this here, and then now here I can call update UI. Now, hopefully that should work without any issues. Okay, I can drag off and it'll reset if it's not in a valid position. Let's move to the inventory. Okay, so I dragged it to the inventory and it didn't set its parent to the inventory. It's still in the hotbar and it disabled the, let's see here. So it's not in the inventory, it's still in the hotbar, the katana here. It disabled the UI drag detector. So let's see if, it just disabled everything actually. All UI drag detectors are disabled, okay. And we're only disabling it if we open or close the UI. So not enabled. It's only right here, right? So like what else, right? I can't drag you here, but I do this. I can drag you. If I drag you into here, if I drag you here, it's gonna go back. If I drag you here, then it resets you back here, and then dragging is disabled. So the typo should be okay. Oh yeah, so the parent here. So I should go to the inventory instead. Well, wait, no, hold on. This is the hotbar. This is the inventory. What am I doing? So the refill logic here might move the item we just dragged back to the hotbar. So we can make a variable for the next item right here. And we don't want to move the item we just added back. So if the next item is not equal to the dragged tool, then we'll output this logic here. So what I can do is also make another function that I can call to update the UI drag detector states, and I'll simply just put this in instead. Here I can call the update drag detector states, and then at the end of our update UI function here, I can call the update drag detector states, which should be less than 9. Okay, and hopefully that should fix it. Okay, still works. Okay, there we go. It's moved it in here, and I can still drag you, so I can put you here, and it swaps it out. I can drag you back here. So I can't drag, what's it called? I can't drag, I can't have both of the items be in the inventory. Okay, so we just added 2 extra variables here for if they're hovering over the hotbar area or the inventory area, and just updated the conditions after that to use it, so it's not gonna only swap. So now hopefully, no, not the NPC, the inventory. So if I put you in, okay, now it's not even going into the inventory. What the heck? Oh, I had set to false instead of true. Whoops. Okay. No, not freaking NPC. Okay, you work, and it's still like, even if I put it, if I hover it over in the corner, like it's still swapping it. Okay, actually, let me verify that the size of the actual button, like the size of the template. So here, right, in our inventory, it's like nowhere near it. The size is right. It's all here, but it's still somehow swapping. So the size is the same. Okay, so he changed it so that you want to first check all the objects first, and only set it here if we haven't found a slot yet, and then only set it here if we haven't found a slot yet either. And if we did find a slot, we're not just hovering over the area basically. So hopefully now, right, this works. It's still swapping it. What? Okay, I actually have no idea. I think it's probably just how the actual frame itself is. So like, let me just print the actual GUI objects just to see if so here it's printing. Oh yeah, I see the issue. So it's the actual position that we're putting in here. So when I do it, it's printing out the trigger, inventory frame, trading frame, quest frame, crafting frame. It's all of the frames, including so if I do this, right, we do this, print you, and that's the first movement here, and we've got the input. Now if I move you, like right here, and I release it, it swaps. So if I look at what it printed, so yeah, I honestly don't know. It's okay. I'm gonna call this this print in our drag continue, and I want to see what's actually being called. So I do this and I push you in here. Attempt to index on what's okay. So not soon. So we do this right there. Okay. So if I do this right here, I'm just gonna see what it's printing. So it's printing the trigger, inventory frame. It's getting you. So it's not like hitting the actual slot. It's hitting the frame, which means the logic has to be it's gotta be here somewhere with the actual thing. Yeah, I'm genuinely stumped. Like, I've no idea why it keeps swapping things instead of adding to the inventory, but I guess, you know, it's fine. You know, it'll still work as a proper inventory system regardless. So I simply changed it to using the mouse, and then I put a like simple reverse thing there, but that's like all I could do. Like nothing else seemed to actually fix it. I'm like super stumped here. I have no idea why it keeps swapping it on its own, but anyways, you know, you could just change it from target mouse to user input service. You know, you just say like user input service : get mouse location, and you know, that's another lighter way to do it. But anyways, yeah, I guess that's it for the inventory system. You know, I could put just like a bunch of random tools in. Let me just get like the flashlight tool, put it into the starter pack. You know, might as well just like duplicate this a bajillion times, and let's see. So here we go. We got, because I have flashlight, and I'm pretty sure remove this after just to test it. Now I go in the inventory and we got more flashlights, and I can put it in, and I can't really tell if it's swapping it or not because they're all the same item, whatever. But you know, as it's to overflow and stuff, that testing portion works. Alright, that's it for day 24. I'm gonna delete this. I mean, hey, it's a pretty functional system, I guess. Besides that one bug, which I cannot complete, and I'm out of time. I don't have any more time to work on this. Yeah, that's it for day 24. I have no clue what day 25 is. I think it's like a market sim, whatever. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.